Books have been a source of knowledge, inspiration, and entertainment for centuries. They have the power to take us to new worlds, introduce us to fascinating characters, and immerse us in unique and thought-provoking experiences. With the creation of cinema, many popular books have been adapted into films, making them accessible to a wider audience. However, while the movies are undoubtedly entertaining, they often fall short in capturing the full essence of the book. In this video, we'll discuss why it's important to read the book instead of just watching the film or the TV adaptation. To preface this, I love movies. They're amazing, and I'm not judging anyone who prefers movies to books. I'm just stating the reason why reading the book version is more valuable than watching the movie, especially in school. Don't come at me, I love movies, they're fantastic. Firstly, books offer a more immersive experience than the movies. Books allow us to dive deeper into the story and understand the characters and their motivations better. With a book, we can take our time and read at our own pace, immersing ourselves in the author's words, visualizing the setting, the characters, and the plot in our own minds. In contrast, movies often condense and simplify the story to fit within a specific time frame, which can lead to a loss of details and character development. You just can't develop a character in 30 minutes or 2 hours like you can in a 200+ page book. Reading a book requires active engagement from the reader, which is essential in fully comprehending the story and appreciating its nuances. With a book, you can't zone out. If you do, then, like me, you'll end up reading the same paragraph over and over again after realizing you don't actually know what's going on. While movies can be visually stimulating and provide a passive form of entertainment, it's so easy to zone out by looking at your phone, checking what's going on with the dogs, whatever. And you end up missing things, but it doesn't matter, because it's a lot easier to just watch the film again, or watch the show again, but it doesn't quite have the same impact as reading the book does. It's too easy to forget things, or to move on to something else. Secondly, books allow us to develop critical thinking skills, the ability to objectively analyze and evaluate text to form an opinion. Reading a book requires us to engage with the text and analyze the story, the characters, the themes, and the symbolism. This type of critical thinking is an essential skill that helps us become better problem solvers and decision makers in our daily lives. When we read a book, we must use our imagination to visualize the story and interpret the author's words. This process of visualization and interpretation requires us to engage with the text on a deeper level and develop our own unique perspectives. You can imagine how the characters look. You can imagine how the characters sound. You design the setting, how it looks, and how it feels to you. In contrast, movies provide a more passive form of entertainment where the story's already visualized for us. The characters are cast, the sets are built, and you don't have room to explore these settings. You see what the camera sees. While movies can be enjoyable, they don't allow us to develop our critical thinking skills in the same way that books do. You can indeed develop critical thinking skills from movies, but not in the same way that you can from books. Thirdly, reading books helps us improve our vocabulary and language skills. Books are written in a more complex language than most movies. This is because books rely solely on the written word to convey their message, whereas movies can use visuals and auditory cues to convey the same message. You can hear the explosion, it doesn't need to be described to you. You can see the red car, you don't need to have the red car described to you. It's not quite the same. Reading books generally, especially in older books like the ones I narrate, generally require us to look up words we don't understand, which helps us, personally, expand our vocabulary and improve our language skills. As a reader, finding out that Hermione's name is pronounced Hermione in The Goblet of Fire was amazing, and until that point she was Hermione, or Hermione. However, Victor Crumb screwed it up, we screwed it up. And I've had plenty of parents and teachers correct my pronunciation of words that, until that point, I'd only read, and it helps me be a better communicator today. Additionally, reading books can help us learn new sentence structures and writing styles, which can be beneficial in improving our own writing skills, and mine are very lacking. But, without reading these books and without understanding the texts and how they're written, my writing skills would be far worse than they already are, which is really saying something. I'm a terrible author. I'm never going to write a book. Movies, though, do not provide the same level of linguistic complexity. They don't offer the same language learning benefits as reading a book. Movies can present new words or expressions to us, but they're generally limited because they're made for mass audiences and therefore don't challenge the audience as much as books do. If the audience is confused by the language, then they'll stop watching. Fourthly, books can be a source of inspiration and personal growth. Many books tackle complex themes and issues that can help us reflect on our own lives and beliefs. The idea of rebellion and not trusting the media that we got from reading 1984 or The Hunger Games was amazing. We can read books like The Grapes of Wrath that show us that even the poorest people can find the greatest richness in their own family. So many coming-of-age stories show us that regardless of the awful situations that you've come from, you can overcome them and become the best person that you possibly can. Books can also introduce us to new perspectives and ideas that broaden our horizons and challenge our preconceptions. It's why I personally recommend that everyone reads 1984. I know it's a bit cliche, but that book taught me to analyse the news that I take in and to look for biases on both sides of the argument. Newspeak is real, and that book told me about it. When we read a book, we become invested in the story and the characters, which can lead to a deep emotional connection and personal growth. There are so many characters that I relate to on a deep level. Characters that when hurt, cause me to hurt. Or when they feel happy, I feel happy too. In contrast, movies provide a more passive form of entertainment, I'm stating that again, where the story and the characters are already visualized for us, leaving less room for personal growth and reflection. The majority of movies just don't have enough time to generate a connection with the audience like books do. Though, in my mind, I'll probably still visualize Daniel Radcliffe as Harry Potter, I relate far less to film Harry than I do to book Harry. There were 8 movies. 8! And Harry was far less relatable and a lot more annoying than book Harry. Many movies are amazing, but you just can't relate to the characters in them like you can in the books. Lastly, reading books helps us develop empathy and understanding, a lot more than films do. Books often feature diverse characters and explore themes of culture, identity, and social justice. Reading books that feature characters from different backgrounds can help us develop empathy and understanding for those who are different from us. Books can also help us understand different perspectives and viewpoints, which can be essential in developing a more compassionate and rounded personality. I'm probably a better person because of the books I've read. I've looked all over, and if you can help me, please do. I've looked all over and I cannot find the name of the book, so please let me know below. But in high school in Australia, we had to read a book about an Afghan family who had to flee from their war-torn country and tried to make their way to Australia. It followed the entirety of their journey and it really struck a chord with me. Prior to reading that book, I had no real idea of the plight of refugees, and following it, I became so incredibly frustrated with the way that England and Australia just blatantly treat them. I'm not going to make any major political comments here because that's not really what the channel's about, but I'm currently feeling very conflicted about holding both a British and Australian passport. But I also live in France, and France has done equally terrible things, so, you know, I can't really... I've got no leg to stand on. I haven't really seen a film about refugees that has made me empathise with their suffering as much as that book or similar books have. Of course, the films are good, but again, they can only show so much due to time restraints and other limitations. In this instance, many films can't really show the graphic violence from which these people are fleeing. Films are made to make money, and by showing all of the graphic detail, the audience is limited, and the amount of money that the film can make is also limited. Because of these restraints, you can't gain the same insight into the lives and situations of the characters from a film as you can from the books. To round out this video, I'm going to list a couple of books and let you know how they're different from their film adaptations. The Shining. The Shining's probably one of the best known books to film adaptations that is unfaithful to the original text. Stephen King, the author of the book, has said that he disliked the adaptation so much that it was the only adaptation of his works that he remembers hating. The film fails to explore Jack's alcoholism and slow descent into insanity. In the movie, Jack's just seemed to be an angry guy who's ready to snap at the drop of a hat. The only improvement in the film from the book is Jack Nicholson's classic, "Here's Johnny!"
Here's Johnny!
It's one of the most iconic lines in film history and will probably remain that way for centuries to come. Maybe not centuries, we've only had cinema for about 100 years. Maybe not centuries, but it's going to go down in history as one of the first iconic lines. Harry Potter. If you only ever watched the Harry Potter movies, you would never know about Spew, a society that Hermione makes to try and help house elves. She believes, rightly so, that house elves are slaves and that they should be freed, that they should have rights. This is completely non-existent in the films. In the Goblet of Fire movie, Neville is the one who gives Harry the gillyweed to help him breathe in the lake. In the books, it's Dobby, a character who is way more prominent in the books than in the movies. In the movies, we see him in the second one, and then we don't really see him until the 6th or 7th film, and we're suddenly wondering, oh yeah, that guy exists. Oh, he's here to help. Whereas in the books, the fact that Dobby sacrifices himself... Spoiler alert. The fact that Dobby sacrifices himself to make sure that Harry can get out safe is so much more powerful. Purely because we've had this build-up over the course of several books to introduce Dobby and fully flesh out his character. In the movies, he just sort of appears out of nowhere, like a sudden saviour figure. It's nowhere near as impactful. In the movies, which I think is one of the biggest travesties of all, Ron's character is reduced to comic relief. In the books, he's fully fleshed out and he's shown to be way more than just a sidekick of Harry. He's a human being, and in the books, you see that. In the films, you just don't. Snape is an even bigger piece of in the books. It fully explains why Neville is most afraid of him when they go up against the Boggart in the 3rd book. He is cruel. The scene that shows this the most is when Neville brews a potion in class that Snape's fairly certain would be lethal to drink. Snape tells Neville that he will fix the potion the best he can, and at the end of the class they will test it on Neville's toad. Snape was literally ready to kill one of his students' pets purely to make fun of his struggles in potions class. In the movies, he's just shown to be a cruel teacher. Snape is trash. The Hunger Games. At the end of the first film, Katniss and Peeta have to make their way to the cornucopia in the middle of the arena, and they're chased by huge, mutated, dog-like creatures. In the books, it's revealed that these mutts bear a striking resemblance to the fallen tributes. They see the eyes that resemble the colours of people we've seen. Even Rue, the little girl that Katniss tried to save but couldn't. The Capitol turned the fallen tributes into dogs. We're shown right from the get-go how evil the Capitol is and how little they care for the tributes. In the film, there's no reference to the mutts being tributes, they're just these dog things that come out of nowhere. Secondly, Peeta loses a leg. His leg is amputated after the games are over, and in the movies there's no mention of this whatsoever. Now, I could go on listing film after film after film and how they differentiate from the book, and if I start talking about the Hobbit movies, this video will never end, but we don't have all day. None of us do. So, hopefully I've been able to help you understand why you can't just watch the movie adaptation of the book. Films simply don't have enough time to establish the characters fully, and it makes it much more difficult for the audience to empathize with them like they can in the books. Books can provide the reader with a source of growth that just isn't possible from a film adaptation, and books can help you improve your vocabulary far more than any movie can. So, am I saying don't watch the movie? No, do, because films need to get made, and they're really fun to watch. But if you want to have a different world opened to you that will allow you to view the people and the world around you in a different light, please read the book. That's all from me today. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please subscribe. And I'll see you next week with more of your English Essentials. Bye-bye.